Billionaire find homeless boy dancing for his paralyzed son. What happened next will shock you. Before we start the story, leave a comment telling us which city you're watching from. Enjoy the story. David West had a very big house on top of a hill in San Francisco. The house had tall gates, shiny floors, clean white walls, and huge windows that looked out at the city. It was the kind of house people dream about. But inside, the house was quiet. Too quiet. David was a rich man. He owned a big tech company and had many people working for him. He used to be proud of everything he built, but now, none of it mattered. His son Eli was the only thing that mattered now. Eli was 10 years old. He used to laugh all the time. He loved running around the house, jumping on the couch, playing video games, and eating too much ice cream. He would yell, "Catch me, Dad," and run through the halls with a Nerf gun. But that was before the accident. One rainy night, a drunk driver hit their car. Eli's mom died. Eli survived, but he was badly hurt. His legs no longer worked, he couldn't walk, and worst of all, he stopped talking. Now Eli sat in a wheelchair every day. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He didn't even look people in the eye. His eyes always stared at the ground, like he was somewhere far away. David tried everything to help. He brought in doctors from across the country. He paid for special therapy. He even built a private rehab room in the house. But nothing worked. Eli stayed quiet, still, lost. Every morning, the nurse rolled Eli into the garden in the back. He sat under the big oak tree with a blanket over his lap. He never moved. David watched from the window. His heart ached. He missed his boy, the real Eli. "Sometimes," David whispered, "please come back to me." But Eli didn't hear. Or maybe he just didn't want to. And so, the big house on the hill stayed quiet. Until one day, a boy with no shoes and a big smile danced his way through the gate. And everything began to change. Jaden was not like most kids in the city. He didn't live in a house. He didn't go to school. He didn't have a mom or dad to come home to. Jaden lived on the streets. He slept under bridges and in empty buildings. He wore clothes that didn't fit. His shoes had holes in them, and sometimes he didn't wear any at all. His hair was messy, and his stomach growled all the time. But Jaden had one special thing. He could dance. Everywhere he went, Jaden danced. On sidewalks, in alleys, near the park. He made up moves and spun in circles. He danced like nobody was watching, even though he hoped someone was. People sometimes gave him coins or leftovers, a slice of pizza here, $1 there. But even when no one gave him anything, Jaden danced anyway. Because when he danced, he felt free. Dancing made him forget the cold nights and empty belly. Dancing made him feel like he mattered, like he was someone. One sunny afternoon, Jaden walked up a long hill he had never been on before. He liked to explore new places. At the top, he saw the biggest house he had ever seen. The gate was tall and black, and the grass inside was greener than he'd ever seen. He peeked through the bars. That's when he saw a boy sitting alone under a tree. The boy was in a wheelchair. He looked very still, very sad. Jaden tilted his head. Something in his heart felt funny. He didn't know the boy, but he could tell the boy needed something. Not food. Not money. A smile. Jaden knew how to give smiles. He looked around. No one was watching. So he slipped through a gap in the hedge. And just like that, he stepped into the garden of the richest house on the hill. He didn't know it yet, but he had just stepped into the most important dance of his life. The garden behind the big house was like a dream. The flowers were bright, the trees were tall, and the grass felt soft under Jaden's feet. He looked around. No one was there, just the boy in the wheelchair, sitting under the tree. Jaden stepped slowly toward him. He didn't want to scare him. The boy looked up. Their eyes met for a second. Then the boy looked down again. Jaden smiled. No words were needed. Without warning, Jaden began to dance. He waved his arms like a bird. He spun in a slow circle. He made funny faces and silly moves, wobbling like a jellyfish. His feet tapped fast on the grass, and his body bent like rubber. The boy blinked. Jaden dropped to the ground, rolled like a log, and popped back up with a big ta-da. The boy's lips twitched. A tiny sound came out. A laugh. Jaden's eyes lit up. He danced more. He made his body go stiff like a robot, then floppy like a noodle. He acted like he slipped and fell, but in a funny way, and got up with a goofy face. The boy giggled. Then he clapped. Up on the balcony, David was reading emails on his tablet. He heard something. He paused. A sound. Soft. Happy. He stood and walked to the window. His eyes widened. Eli was laughing. David couldn't believe what he was seeing. His son, quiet, still, and silent for so many months, was now laughing in the garden. He was clapping his hands, his eyes wide and bright. It was like the sun had come back into his face. And standing in front of him was a barefoot boy, dancing like the world was his stage. David blinked. Who was this boy? How did he get in? He rushed downstairs. Outside, Jaden was doing a slow-motion dance move. Eli laughed so hard he covered his mouth with both hands. He looked alive again. Then the garden door slammed open. Jaden froze. David stepped out, looking angry. Who are you? How did you get in here? Jaden backed away, scared. Eli looked up. Dad, wait. Please don't make him leave. David stopped. He hadn't heard Eli speak in weeks, and now his son was asking him to let the stranger stay? Jaden looked down. I didn't come to steal anything, sir. I just wanted to make him smile. David looked at his son, who nodded slowly. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then David sighed. You have 5 minutes, then you leave. Jaden nodded quickly. And just like that, he turned back to Eli and kept dancing. Those 5 minutes turned into the most magical time Eli had had in a year. Jaden danced like his life depended on it. He jumped, spun, flipped, and rolled. He made up silly moves with names like the banana wiggle and the spaghetti arms. Eli laughed so hard he had to wipe tears from his face. David sat on the bench nearby, watching. He didn't smile. Not yet. But he didn't stop it either. For 5 full minutes, Eli forgot he couldn't walk. He forgot about the hospital beds and the sad nights. He just felt happy. When Jaden finished, he bowed low, like a performer on stage. Thank you, Eli said softly. Jaden grinned. You're welcome. He turned to leave. Wait, Eli said. Will you come back tomorrow? Jaden looked at David. David looked at his son. Then, finally, he nodded. 1 hour, after school time. Then you leave. Jaden gave a thumbs up. Deal. And with that, he slipped back through the hedge, barefoot and smiling. But now, he had something new. A reason to come back. The next day, right at 4 o'clock, Jaden came back. He wore the same clothes, and he was still barefoot, but this time, he carried something. A crumpled napkin with a joke written on it, and a tiny toy he had found on the sidewalk. He wanted to make Eli smile again, maybe even laugh harder. The gate guards were confused, but one of them had been told, "Let the boy in for 1 hour," David West had said. "No trouble." Then he leaves. Jaden walked quietly into the garden, heart beating fast. Eli was already there, sitting under the oak tree with a blanket on his lap. His eyes lit up when he saw Jaden. "You came back," Eli said. "Of course," Jaden grinned. "A deal is a deal." Jaden started with a little warm-up dance. Nothing fancy, just wiggly moves and silly hops. Then he told Eli the joke from the napkin. It didn't really make sense, but Eli laughed anyway. They spent the hour talking a little, laughing a lot, and dancing most of the time. David watched from the window upstairs. He still didn't understand how this was working, how a boy from the street, a kid with nothing, was doing more than all the expensive doctors. But deep inside, David felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. For the rest of the week, Jaden came every afternoon. He never asked for money. He never touched anything in the house. He just danced, joked, and talked to Eli. And every time, Eli smiled more. He even started making small movements like clapping or lifting his arms. One day, Eli said, "I want to learn one of your dance moves." Jaden's eyes lit up. "You serious?" Eli nodded. Jaden knelt beside him and showed him a simple move, just tapping his hand to a beat. Eli tried. His hand moved slowly, but it moved. "You did it!" Jaden cheered. David saw it too. His son was moving again. That night, David sat at the dinner table alone, as usual. But for the first time in months, he didn't feel completely empty. He even smiled a little. Outside, the wind blew softly through the garden. And laughter, once lost, had found its way home again. One day, after their usual hour of fun, Eli asked a quiet question. "Where do you live, Jaden?" Jaden froze. He looked away. I stay near the old bus station sometimes. Or behind a store when it's closed." Eli blinked. "You mean you don't have a home?" Jaden shook his head. "Not really, but it's okay. I dance, people smile, and sometimes they give me food or coins. I get by." Eli didn't know what to say. He had so much. Jaden had so little. But Jaden smiled more than anyone he knew. "That's kind of sad," Eli said. Jaden shrugged. "It's life, but dancing helps." David overheard them from the kitchen window. He stepped back and sat down, shaken. This boy was homeless, alone, yet he gave joy to someone else every day without asking for anything. David felt a lump in his throat. Later that night, he searched online for shelters and programs that helped street kids. He didn't know what he was going to do yet, but something inside him was changing. Every afternoon at 4, Jaden came in like a ray of sunshine. He danced, joked, and brought the kind of magic that money could never buy. One day, David met him at the garden gate. "I made you a sandwich," he said, handing Jaden a small lunchbox. Jaden blinked, surprised. "For me?" David nodded. "You've earned it." Jaden smiled. "Thanks, Mr. West." David looked at the boy barefoot, skinny, and smiling like the world belonged to him. "You don't have to call me that," David said. "You can call me David." Jaden's grin grew wider. Something new was growing in the garden, something better than flowers. It was friendship and healing. And maybe family. David West sat in his home office pretending to work. His computer was on. His phone buzzed with messages, but he wasn't paying attention. He was watching the garden. Through the window, he saw Eli and Jaden together. Eli was smiling, really smiling. Jaden was showing him how to clap to the beat of a new dance. Eli was a little slow, but he was trying. He wasn't just watching anymore. He was part of it. David leaned back in his chair. Something was changing. Before, David thought healing came from doctors and science. He believed if he paid enough money, everything would go back to normal. But nothing had worked until now. And this boy, this barefoot dancer, had done it for free. That night at dinner, David tried something new. He sat across from Eli and said, "You seemed happy today." Eli looked up and nodded. "I was." David smiled. "Jaden's a good friend, huh?" Eli's face lit up. "He's the best." David didn't say much more, but inside, something was starting to crack. The wall around his heart, the one he built to keep the pain out, was slowly falling. Because when he saw his son laugh, he felt alive again too. Every day, Eli worked a little harder. Jaden's visits weren't just fun anymore. They became something more. Motivation, joy, a reason to try. Eli asked his nurse to help him practice moving his legs again. His hands were getting stronger too. He could push his wheelchair a little bit now. One afternoon during Jaden's visit, Eli clapped to the beat perfectly. Then he raised one arm above his head. Jaden jumped up. "That's it! You're doing it, bro!" Eli laughed so hard he nearly tipped backward in his chair. David came outside and watched quietly. "What's all the noise?" Jaden looked over. "Your son is becoming a dancer." David raised an eyebrow. "Is that so?" Eli nodded proudly. "He's my teacher." David smiled. "Well, he's doing a good job." Jaden grinned. "Told you I'm the best." That night, David sat in the dark living room. No music, no television, just thoughts. Eli was healing, not because of money, not because of doctors, because of love, laughter, friendship. Maybe he had been looking in the wrong places all along. David wanted to know more about the boy who had changed his son's life. One afternoon, after Eli went inside for therapy, David sat on a bench beside Jaden. "You dance well," he said. "Thanks," Jaden smiled. "Where did you learn?" Jaden shrugged. "Just watched people, felt the beat, let my body move." David nodded. "Do you go to school?" Jaden looked down. "Not anymore." "Why not?" Jaden was quiet for a long time. "My mom died when I was little. My dad left after that. I went to a shelter, then a foster home, but it wasn't good. I ran away, been on the streets since then." David's chest tightened. He had imagined hard times, but not this. "You've been alone?" Jaden nodded. "Yeah, but dancing helps. It makes me feel not broken." David swallowed hard. "How old are you?" 13, I think. Maybe 14. David didn't know what to say. Jaden didn't want pity. He just wanted someone to listen. And for the first time, David really did. Jaden kept showing Eli more moves. But now it wasn't just dancing. It was teaching, laughing, connecting. He brought music on an old phone, and they made up silly moves together. Eli used his hands to make beats on his lap. Jaden added foot stomps and claps. Together, they created their own rhythm. "Let's call it the Eli beat," Jaden said. Eli smiled. Or the Jaden groove. They laughed. David stood nearby, pretending to read. But he was watching, listening. One day, the therapist came early. She stopped by the garden and watched. Eli was laughing, tapping, and moving with joy. Later, she told David, "He's progressing faster. This kind of joy, it changes the brain. It gives kids power to heal." David nodded. He's had that power all along. He just needed someone to bring it out. He looked at Jaden, who was pretending to be a robot for Eli's amusement. Someone like him. That Friday, David did something he had never done before. He made lunch, just hot dogs, nothing fancy. When Jaden came to the garden, David walked out with a plate. "Hungry?" Jaden blinked. "For me?" David nodded. Jaden took a bite and smiled big. "Best thing I've had all week." David sat beside him. "You know, Jaden, you're helping my son more than anyone ever has. I just want you to know that." Jaden looked down. "I'm just being his friend." That's exactly what he needed. Eli rolled over. "Dad, Jaden showed me a new spin." David smiled. "Let's see it." Jaden stood up, spun in a big circle, and bowed. Eli clapped. And for a second, just a second, David stood and gave Jaden a quick hug. It surprised both of them, but it felt right. Jaden wasn't just a visitor anymore. He was part of their story. Eli's birthday was coming up, and this time, he didn't say, "I don't want anything." This time he smiled and whispered, "I want Jaden to dance again." Jaden had been thinking about it too. "This one's going to be big," Jaden told him. "You'll never forget it." For 3 days, Jaden planned. He practiced a routine behind a gas station, using reflections from a window as his mirror. He added jumps, slow-motion spins, and a new ending where he pretended to fly. He even made a little paper crown for Eli. On the day of the birthday, the garden looked the same, but everything felt different. David placed a small chocolate cake on the table. There were no balloons, no big party, just a father, a son, and a dancing boy. Jaden came out from behind the hedge with a loud, "Happy birthday, Eli." Eli laughed. "Show me what you've got." Jaden danced like never before. He flipped, spun, slid on the grass, and even ended the show with a super slow fall that made Eli laugh so hard he almost cried. But then, something happened. Eli placed his hands on the arms of his wheelchair and pushed. Just a little. Just enough to lift himself a few inches. David dropped his coffee. "You okay?" Jaden asked, rushing over. "I stood up," Eli said, breathing hard. "I really did." Jaden knelt beside him. "You're amazing, bro. That was all you." Eli smiled. "Number, it was your dance." Later that night, David sat in the kitchen with the therapist. She had seen Eli's progress too. "It's a good sign," she said, "but we must be careful. It could take months, even years, before he can walk again." David nodded. "But it's still something, right?" "Yes," she said, "but don't push him too fast. Let his body lead." David wanted to believe things were getting better, but he was scared. What if it was a one-time thing? What if Eli fell backward? What if Jaden left? David didn't say it out loud, but the truth was there, sitting in his heart. He was afraid of hope. Hope had hurt him before. That night, Eli was quiet too. He didn't want to say it, but part of him was scared the moment he stood up was just a dream. Jaden saw it in his eyes the next day. "Don't be scared," Jaden said softly. "You've already done the hard part. The next part is just more steps." Eli looked at him. "Promise?" Jaden smiled. "I don't break promises." One afternoon, Eli waited by the tree. 4 o'clock came. No Jaden. He looked at the gate. Nothing. 5 o'clock. Still nothing. Maybe he's sick, Eli told himself. But Jaden didn't come the next day either. Or the day after that. Eli stopped laughing. He didn't want to talk. He skipped his therapy session. He barely ate. David noticed right away. "Is something wrong?" he asked. Eli nodded. "He's gone." David asked the guards, asked the neighbors. Nobody had seen Jaden. David felt something heavy in his chest. He had never admitted it out loud, but Jaden meant something now, not just to Eli, but to him too. That night, David put on his coat and got in his car. He started driving. He didn't know where Jaden slept, but he had to find him. David drove through dark alleys, empty parking lots, under bridges, and near bus stops. He saw kids sleeping in doorways, hiding under cardboard. He asked about a dancing boy with curly hair and no shoes. Some people shook their heads. Others said, "Oh yeah, he dances near the bus park sometimes." David went there. The ground was wet, it had rained, trash was scattered. Then he saw a shape in the corner, curled under a broken umbrella. David walked closer. It was Jaden. He looked cold, tired, and sick. "Jaden?" Jaden blinked. "Mr. West?" David knelt down. "Are you okay?" Jaden shook his head. "I didn't feel good. I couldn't come." David placed a hand on his shoulder. "Why didn't you call? Why didn't you come to us?" "I didn't think I could," Jaden said. "I'm not family." David looked him in the eyes. "Yes, you are." David helped Jaden into the car. The boy didn't protest. He was too weak. They drove back in silence. Eli was in the garden, looking lost, when he saw the car pull up. The moment he saw Jaden, his eyes lit up. "You're okay," Eli shouted. Jaden smiled weakly. "Missed you, bro." Eli rolled his chair over and grabbed his hand. David carried Jaden inside the guest room. He gave him a blanket, a hot drink, and real food. "Stay here," David said, "until you're better." "You sure?" Jaden whispered. "I'm sure." Jaden slept in a warm bed that night, for the first time in years. And in the room next door, Eli slept soundly too, because his best friend was home, and for once, everything felt right. Jaden was still weak, but just knowing he was safe gave Eli new strength. I want to get stronger, Eli told his therapist the next morning. I want to stand again, for real this time. The therapist smiled. Let's take it slow, but I believe you can. Eli practiced every day. He pushed his chair on his own. He lifted his legs with help. He held himself upright longer and longer. He even started standing just for a few seconds, but it felt like flying. Jaden watched from a blanket in the garden. He clapped and cheered after every move. You're crushing it, bro, Jaden yelled. You're gonna be running soon. Eli laughed. Only if you run with me. Jaden grinned. Deal. David watched them from the window. He didn't say much. But deep inside, he was proud. Proud of his son. Proud of Jaden. Proud of the family they were slowly becoming. That night, David stood outside Jaden's door. He knocked gently. Need anything? He asked. Jaden sat up in bed. No, sir. I'm good. David smiled. You can call me David. Jaden nodded slowly. Thanks, David. And just like that, another wall between them fell. One morning, Jaden looked out at the garden, deep in thought. David sat beside him. What's on your mind? Jaden hesitated. I miss school. David raised an eyebrow. You want to go back? Jaden nodded slowly. I know I'm behind, but I want to learn. I want to do something with my life. David leaned back, impressed. I can help. We'll start with a tutor here at home. See how you feel. Jaden's eyes lit up. You've helped my son more than anyone, David said. Helping you is the least I can do. Jaden stood and gave David a hug. Thank you, he whispered. The next day, a friendly tutor named Miss Lily arrived. She brought books, pencils, and a big smile. Jaden worked hard. He read slowly, solved easy math problems, and asked 100 questions. Eli joined him sometimes. They learned together, laughed together, and helped each other. Learning is fun when you're not scared, Jaden said. Everything's better when you're not alone, Eli replied. And for the first time, Jaden began to believe his future could be more than just dancing on sidewalks. It could be anything. One afternoon, while Jaden and Eli were in the garden, something amazing happened. Jaden did a silly dance move where he spun, tripped, and landed on the grass with a loud ta-da! Eli laughed so hard he almost tipped out of his chair. Unseen, one of the guards nearby filmed it on his phone. He posted it online with the caption, "A homeless boy teaches a paralyzed kid to laugh again. This is real love." The video went viral overnight. Thousands of people shared it. Comments poured in. This is beautiful. I cried watching this. Hope is real. News reporters called. Television shows wanted to interview them. David was nervous. He didn't want to turn Eli's healing into a media circus. But Jaden said, maybe this can help other kids like me. So David agreed. 1 week later, the three of them appeared on a morning talk show. The host showed the video, then asked, Jaden, which made you dance for Eli? Jaden answered simply, because I know what it feels like to be sad, and I wanted him to feel joy. The crowd stood and clapped. That day, the world saw a boy who had nothing give everything. After the show, everything changed. People started calling David's company, not about business, but about Jaden. They wanted to donate to shelters. They wanted to share Jaden's story in books and podcasts. Even schools reached out, offering scholarships. But the most special thing came from Eli's doctor. I saw the interview, she said, and I saw Eli's legs move during the show. David nodded. He's working so hard. The doctor smiled. We think his nerves are waking up. It's rare, but not impossible. This boy's joy is medicine. That evening, David sat with Jaden on the porch. You've given Eli more than any treatment. You gave him a reason to believe. Jaden looked down. I just wanted to make someone smile. David placed a hand on his shoulder. You've done much more than that." Inside, Eli was drawing something. He showed it to Jaden later. It was a picture of the two of them standing side by side on the grass. Eli had written one word at the top: "Brothers." Jaden smiled. "Best drawing I've ever seen." Just when everything seemed perfect, trouble came knocking. One morning, David got a letter in the mail. It was from a woman claiming to be Jaden's aunt. "I saw the news," the letter said. "That boy is family. I want custody." David's heart dropped. He showed the letter to Jaden. Jaden frowned. "I don't know her. I've never seen her in my life." "She's filing a court case," David said gently. "We'll need to prove what's best for you." Jaden looked scared. "What if they take me away?" David put a hand on his shoulder. "We won't let that happen." The next few days were hard. Lawyers came. Papers were filed. Reporters asked questions. Eli was worried too. "She can't take him, right?" David said, "We'll fight this. Together." Jaden stayed strong in front of Eli. But at night, he cried quietly into his pillow. He had found a home. A real one. And now, someone wanted to take it away. But he wasn't alone anymore. And that made all the difference. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please click on that subscribe button now. Turn on the notifications so whenever I post more interesting stories, you'll be the first to get them. I really appreciate you. I do not take your support for granted. See you in my next video. Bye.